So today we have an epic performance comparison between two pretty good new mid-range smartphones. So we have here the brand new VIVO V23 Pro versus the Realme GT NEO 2. Now both of these smartphones are priced under £400 and I call them bang for your buck mid-range performing devices. And the main reason why we are doing this comparison is the VIVO 23 Pro features the latest Mediatek Dimensity 1200, and I want to put that chipset to the test, find out how good it is and find out how it performs against the Snapdragon 870 in the Realme GT NEO 2. So a full performance test, we're going to find out which smartphone gives you a better overall performance, battery life, gaming, cooling efficiency and overall user experience. So we have the brand new VIVO V23 Pro, the color changing smartphone powered by the Mediatek Dimensity 1200. It's an octa-core clocked at 3 GHz. And on the left we have the Realme GT NEO 2 powered by the Snapdragon 870, which is also an octa-core chip, but it's clocked at a slightly higher 3.20 GHz. Now both smartphones are 12 plus 256 variants, so 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of internal storage. That's UFS 3.1 storage. So exactly the same RAM and storage to even the playing field. Now you can see both phones are starting off with 100% battery. And I have a timer on the right, which is going to run in the background throughout my tests. And that's going to help us work out the battery performance towards the end. So the first thing I want to do is run 3 back-to-back Antutu benchmark tests. So pulling out the chargers right now, chargers are gone, timer is started. So here we go. So we've got the same apps installed on both phones. The first thing we're going to do is run an Antutu benchmark test. So let's open up Antutu. So running the first Antutu test on both phones at the same time, and I will of course speed up the whole process for your convenience.
So the Realme has completed the first test and achieved 731K. Now let's take a quick look at these system temperatures, and you can see here battery 40 and CPU 50.4 degrees. And the Vivo achieved a lower 630K, and here are the system temperatures.
Alright, so time to run the second test. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Second time round, Realme achieved 727K, and here are the system temperatures. Vivo's second round scores itself 595K, with CPU temperatures reaching a similar level to the Realme.
So we're running this again for the third time.
Alright, so Realme scores 721K in the third and final round, with CPU temperatures reaching 53 degrees. And the Vivo's final round scores itself 587K, with CPU temperatures going down to 45 degrees.
So after 3 Antutu tests, you can see the Realme achieved a higher score every single time, but it also ran at higher temperatures. In comparison, the Vivo started with 630K, then dropped quite drastically in performance down to 595K, and the final score you can see right here is 587K. But the temperatures were cooler after every test when compared to the Realme. So the Realme GT NEO 2 will give you a much better overall performance from the Antutu scores, and it also sustains the performance but does run a little bit hotter than the Vivo. Now you might be thinking, what is the point of putting the timer on the side? You're going to find out what the point of that is right now. 41 minutes later, battery life on both phones are at 84 and 86%. So we got 2% more battery power in the Vivo's phone. And just to give you an idea, the Vivo actually has a smaller battery, so 4,300 milliamp hours versus 5,000 milliamp hours. And the battery life is slightly better right now after 41 minutes. Also want to mention both phones have brightness turned to max. Wi-Fi is on, Bluetooth is on, but I have put the phone in do not disturb so we don't get pop-ups during our tests. If we quickly go to settings, I want to show you, and you can see I have set both phones at the maximum refresh rate. So 120 Hz on the Realme and 90 Hz on the Vivo, which probably explains the slightly better battery life. Okay, next up, Geekbench 5. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. So open them up at the same time. Here we go. 1, 2. Okay, so both Geekbench tests are now finished. Let's just get a closer look. So the Realme GT NEO 2 has achieved a single core of 1001 and multi-core score of 2999. The VIVO V23 Pro has achieved a single core score of 753 and a multi-core score of 2940. So that's your Geekbench results. Alright, so time to run the next test. It's 3D Mark. And we are running the standard wildlife stress test, not the extreme one. And let's see what happens. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. So here are the full results for the wildlife stress test. So you can see the Realme has achieved a best loop score of 4248 compared to 4712. Lowest loop score 4221 compared to 3694. Stability 99.4%. And the stability over here 78.4%. You can see the chart there for the stress test, how it performs under load, the performance range, and the performance monitoring. So that was the results of the 3D Mark stress test. It looks like under load, Realme definitely gives you a much better stability. All right, time for a battery check. 1 hour, 25 minutes later, you can see that the Realme is on 69% battery left and the Vivo is on 71%. All right, next test, CPU throttle test. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. And after 5 minutes of this test, you can see the results here for the performance, maximum, average, and minimum for each one. You can compare the results for yourself. And you can also read there, it says no CPU throttling detected in the Realme GT NEO 2. However, in the VIVO V23 Pro, you can see CPU throttled to 94% of its maximum performance. So next up, we're going to test the internal disk speeds. Both phones have 256 gigs and both are UFS 3.1. So let's open up the internal disk speed test at the same time. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. For the first time through this video, the Vivo actually finished a test before the Realme. Here are the results. We've got a faster read speed in the Realme of 1.3 gigabytes per second, and the Vivo has 1.1 gigabytes per second. But the write speeds are much faster in the Vivo. So you've got 1.2 gigabytes per second compared to write speeds of 692 megabytes per second. All right, time to test the Wi-Fi. And we're not going to do this at the same time because, of course, it's using the same network. So we're going to do this one at a time, beginning with Realme. Realme achieved 61 megabits per second download and 20 megabits per second upload. Now it's Vivo's turn. And here are the results for the Vivo. 54 megabits per second download and 21 megabits per second upload. I am going to run the Vivo one more time just to see if it can get my top speed of 61. Let's try it again. So second time round, 55 megabits per second download and 20 megabits per second upload. So we ran it twice on the Vivo. I'm also going to run it twice on the Realme to see if there's any difference. And this time, Realme achieved 59.1 megabits per second and 19.9 megabits per second upload. Now, the top download speed we achieve in our office is around 61 megabits per second, and the maximum upload speed we achieve is 20 megabits per second. So it looks like both times Realme done a better job with the Wi-Fi test. All right, so time for some gaming. First of all, we're going to check out the PUBG graphics. So let's open up settings on both. So this is the Realme GT NEO 2. If you have a look at the graphics settings, I've already maxed them out, so you can see Ultra HD is available and frame rate is Ultra. Now if you tap on UHD, it says coming soon. And VIVO 23 Pro, maximum graphics you can select is HDR. Select Ultra HD, it says it's coming soon, and the maximum frame rate is Ultra. So you're getting a higher graphics option with the Realme GT NEO 2, and I'm not surprised considering it has the Snapdragon chip, which is definitely more optimized for gaming. We're just going to load up the game on both and see what they look like. Here we go. And it looks like we only got a single speaker on the Vivo. So after 2 hours and 3 minutes, we're going to have a quick look at the battery. So the Realme has a 58% battery left and the Vivo has a 60% battery left. So now we're comparing the graphics settings for COD Mobile. You can see we have exactly the same options. So graphics quality maximum very high on both and frame rate max on both. So just a quick gameplay test to see what sort of frame rate we get. All right, so Realme first of all, 60 frames per second. It's looking really nice.
Get down! Sniper! Enemy down! Enemy down!
Plays really well.
Hey, run! Target down! Eliminated!
Alright, so that was gameplay from the Realme, and here is the Vivo.
Enemy down! Enemy contact! Contact with enemy! Target down! Target in sight! Enemy down!
So Vivo also plays 60 frames per second, quite similar gameplay. So there you have it guys, that was my performance test between two affordable mid-range smartphones, the Realme GT NEO 2 versus the VIVO V23 Pro. So it looks like the GT NEO 2's Snapdragon 870 did outperform the V23's Mediatek Dimensity 1200. The Snapdragon chip performs better in nearly every scenario, including gaming performance stability with no CPU throttling issues. After 2 hours and 24 minutes of performance testing, Realme GT NEO 2 54% battery and the Vivo is on 55%. That is more or less the same battery. We also saw a better Wi-Fi performance from the Realme GT NEO 2 with pretty good internal read speeds. Now the Vivo V23 Pro got decent scores in the Geekbench and 3D Mark. However, we did see some CPU throttling on this phone. Now internal disk speeds for the Vivo, especially the write speeds, were quite good. Now when it comes to graphics settings for COD Mobile, they were both exactly the same, but you had the option for PUBG Mobile at Ultra HD on the Realme. Furthermore, throughout our intensive performance tests, the battery drain was quite similar on both phones, as you guys saw. The Realme actually has a bigger 5000 mAh battery versus a 4300 mAh in the Vivo, but the Vivo's battery actually performed 1% better. I guess it's 54 against 55%. And the main reason is that refresh rate. Realme's 120 Hz versus Vivo's 90 Hz. And I did set both phones permanently to their maximum refresh rates, which definitely helped drain that battery. And of course, the performance tests I ran on these phones are very taxing on the system. These aren't normal tests that you would run every day. These tests really do drain that battery life. So bottom line, after 2 hours of crazy testing, I can confirm that the Realme GT2 NEO performs very well under stress with no throttling issues. You can expect a steady, stable, high performance throughout your usage of this phone. Whereas the Vivo does experience some CPU throttling. The performance is good, but under stress, it did experience drops in performances and the stability doesn't match up to the Realme. Now with that being said, let me know if you found this video useful. If you did, hit the like button and let me know which phones you want me to do next. If there's anything I missed out and you would like me to add in the next video, then do jot that down in the comments. Meanwhile, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.